Hello, Tony Hines here. You're listening to Right to the Point, the podcast where we get right to the point.
Right to the point.
Now, when we think about all the things that are happening around the world today, we can think of climate change. In some places it's warmer, noticeably, and they've got forest fires, higher risks than ever. And in other places they've got floods with more water. And both of those are caused by climate change. And there's plenty of evidence to suggest that climate change is the cause. And then there's air quality. That's a big risk for people. People expect good air quality, and it's important for life. But in many parts of the globe, we don't get good air quality, and that's because of pollution. It's usually caused by industry and industrial activity. Now, as we know, we need industry, and we need industrial activity. But it's how we set about the task and how we do that that's important. So what can we do to improve the situation? Improving the health of the planet, and by extension our own health, involves a multifaceted approach to reduce the negative impacts of industrial development. And here's what we might think about. We hear the message all the time that we have to reduce carbon emissions, so we could transition to renewable energy. Shifting from fossil fuel to renewable energy sources like solar, wind and hydroelectric power can significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Energy efficiency. We can implement energy-efficient technologies and practices in industries which can lower energy consumption and emissions. We can develop sustainable industrial practices. We can look at green manufacturing. Adopting green manufacturing processes that minimize waste and pollution can help reduce the environmental footprint of industry. We can look at the circular economy. Promoting a circular economy where products are reused, repaired and recycled can reduce the demand for raw materials and decrease waste. We can look at pollution control, and that's both to improve air and water quality. And we have air and water quality management, implementing stricter regulations and technologies to control emissions of pollutants into the air and water can protect the ecosystem and human health. And we can look at improving waste management. Proper disposal and treatment of industrial waste can prevent contamination of soil and water sources. And we can conserve and restore, protecting natural habitats, preserving forests, wetlands and other natural habitats can help maintain biodiversity and ecosystems. We can restore projects. We can rehabilitate degraded land and ecosystems to improve the environmental health. And we can turn to sustainable agriculture, organic farming, practices that avoid synthetic pesticides and fertilizers can reduce soil and water pollution. And agroforestry, integrating trees and shrubs into agricultural landscapes, can enhance biodiversity and improve health. We can raise public awareness and education about these matters. Environmental education, raising the awareness about the importance of the environment and its protection, and sustainable practices that can drive collective action, along with community involvement, engaging communities in conservation efforts and sustainable practices can lead to more effective and lasting change. And we need policies and regulations as well. Government policies to implement and enforce and promote sustainable development and environmental protection is critical. International cooperation, collaborating with other countries to address global environmental challenges, can amplify the impact of local efforts. By integrating these strategies, we can mitigate the adverse effects of industrial development, improve the health of our planet, and enhance our own well-being. The transition to more sustainable practices is challenging, and there are several factors that might contribute to the problem. There are vested interests economic dependencies. Many industries and economies are heavily dependent on fossil fuels and traditional industrial practices, and shifting away from these can disrupt established economic structures and job markets. Lobbying and political influence is another factor. Powerful industries often lobby against regulations that would require them to change their practices, influencing policy decisions to protect their own interest. There's profit protection, short-term profit focus. Businesses often prioritize short-term profits over long-term sustainability. Investing in green technologies and practices can be costly up front, even if they offer long-term benefits. It may, of course, be because of market competition. Companies might fear losing their competitive edge if they incur higher costs because of sustainable practices. Especially if competitors don't follow suit, they might see themselves at some disadvantage. Infrastructure and technology is another issue. The existing infrastructure, much of the current infrastructure, is built around fossil fuels and traditional industrial methods. Transitioning to new systems requires significant investment and time. We could take a look at the EV market to see that the grid isn't really ready for that particular transition, and much investment is needed. Similarly, domestic and industrial power needs new investment. There are technological barriers. While renewable energy and sustainable technologies are advancing, they still face challenges such as energy storage, efficiency, and scalability. There are regulatory and policy challenges too. Inconsistent policies can impact the choices that people make. Lack of consistent and stringent environmental policies across regions can hinder progress. Businesses may relocate to areas with less stringent regulations. There are subsidies for fossil fuels. Many governments still provide substantial subsidies for fossil fuel in industries, making it harder for renewable energy sources to compete. And then there's public perception and awareness. There's resistance to change. People and businesses can be resistant to change, especially if they're not fully aware of the benefits of sustainable practices or the risks of continuing current practices. Lack of awareness, public awareness and understanding of the environmental issues and sustainable practices are not always widespread, which can slow down the adoption of greener alternatives. And for many, it's a cost. It adds to their cost of living. Economic and social factors are also influential. Economic inequality. Developing countries may prioritize economic growth over environmental sustainability due to immediate needs, such as poverty alleviation and job creation. And there's the social impact. Transitioning to sustainable practices can have social impacts such as job losses and traditional industries which need to be managed carefully. We only have to look at the steel industries and those industries that have disappeared over the past few decades. Those industries have gone, and they're probably not coming back. Addressing the challenges requires coordinated efforts from governments, businesses, and individuals. Policies that incentivize sustainable practices, investments in green technologies, and public education can help overcome these barriers. So where do you stand on these matters? Do you think we have to make the change, the transition, or do you think it's too expensive on a personal or a business level to make that change too fast? There are different opinions, of course, and it's worth having an open dialogue about the challenges, the issues, and the way forward so that we can decide the best route to the future. But I'll see you next time in Right to the Point. I'm signing off now. I'm Tony Hines, and you've been listening to Right to the Point.
Right to the point.
If you like Right to the Point, don't forget to subscribe on your favourite podcast platform, and you'll be first to know when a new episode arrives.